Hey guys, welcome to G&G's Judge event. I am joined here with Ricardo McBride, who went undefeated at the tournament in 4 rounds of Swiss, then a top 8 cut. So, Ricardo, can we start out? Who was your lovely leader?
Obligatory Mecha Frieza.
In before the errata.
Yeah, in before the errata.
So, let's kind of go through this deck and see what you played and how it worked out.
Alright, well, most of it's like pretty standard, to be honest. Like, if you've seen GT, you've probably seen this deck for the most part. I probably have like a few choices that might be different, which you'll see when we get to them. And like, there's some stuff, ratios are just weird with this deck, but we'll go ahead and go through. So, first thing first, you have 4 Pint-Sized Warrior Son Goku. This guy just like, he doesn't do everything, but he does a lot. He gets you, he toolboxes out the threat you need for the matchup. And that's pretty much all there is to say about him. If you go first, you can like flood your board with 2 or 3 of them sometimes. And then on your second turn, you can just like completely wreck your opponent on the crackback because you'll boost them through a variety of means, which again, we'll get to later. Next in line, we have 4 Determined Super Saiyan Son Goku. He is literally mandatory at 4 because he is the only way that any of your evolutions do anything. And unfortunately, I had a bad habit of drawing him today, but still, he does his job and he does it quite well. And like occasionally, if you're not going for the immediate push, which happens sometimes, because sometimes you have to go into grinds with this deck, he can just be like double strike crit with the combo of Fearless Fan. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So next we have 4 Victorious Fist Super Saiyan 3 Son Goku. This guy is definitely like the best of the evolutions and the one you're going to use the most, especially in the format we're in now with Mecha Apes, because if you're playing against Mecha Apes, that means you're playing against Mecha Frieza, and if you're playing against Mecha Frieza, that means they have Shugesh, and if they have Shugesh, they have Kid Goku, which means no attack is safe unless it's in active mode, which he is. There's a number of times where you're going to draw like 2, 3, if you're a god, maybe even 4 of them, and just keep evolving, and there's no way they're going to be able to deal with that amount of pressure, because he's going to get a 5,000 pump for every single attack. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. It's just like he's a huge body with double strike that Kid Goku can't pop. And next to that, we have Broken Limit Super Saiyan 3 Son Goku. So like, when I first built this deck, I had him at 2, thinking like that was just the perfect number, because like I was basically doing an even split of him and Victorious Fist, like really just not accounting for the meta. Currently, I'd say he should probably be like a 1 of, because he just doesn't really get there, because you're going to be fighting apes and you can't, he's not going to get through without being popped by Shugesh and Goku. But if you're not playing against apes or any yellow leader and they're at 3 life, this guy will win you the game. This guy will 100% win you the game, because like 60,000 triple strike is just ridiculous. And the reason I'm playing this deck, since we're done with that guy, Hyper Evolution Super Saiyan 4 Son Goku. So like, he's definitely the highlight of a deck for me, just because he's really cool. But realistically, you don't use him too often, and he doesn't really win you the game that often. He came up like a surprising number of times today, because there are so many times where you just like have to edge out 1 damage with him, because people will let your double strikes through and go down to 1 just because they can't stop it sometimes. And then there are other situations where like they'll be at 3 and you don't have your broken limits, so you swing with him, get your guaranteed 1 damage, then you go Shugesh into Fearless Fan, and all of a sudden he's double strike, and they're gonna have to like somehow combo out of 70, 80,000 double strike attack, which probably just isn't gonna happen. That's assuming you like have the way to play around Shugesh Goku, or if they're out of Shugesh Goku. But you know, in the scenarios where he comes up, he's very, very, very potent, and I love him to death. Next up, we have the Pans, which I'd say easily, like, they are what make this deck work, and this one, for sure, is probably the best out of all of them. Combination Attack Pan is insane. So if you don't know what she does, when if you have a Goku Let me double, like I'm pretty sure it says something about Trunks as well, but nobody cares about that. If you have a Son Goku GT on your board with 25,000 or more, you can just play her for free. And she's a 10,000 body, and she has an activate main that once per turn lets you give a Son Goku GT on your board plus 5,000. So you can already see where that goes, because that's a lot of the way that you're going to be pumping this guy up to get your free damage in. And just flooding the board with free bodies is insane, because assuming your deck is playing like it should, they're basically 15k double strikes by default, and that's just like an insane amount of pressure. Like the last game of the last round today, I had 4 of her out on board. This guy was just chilling in rest mode, played 2 Fearless Pan, and they're all just huge double strikers. He had like 6 cards in hand, and Chris is a great player, by the way. He did amazing. 6 cards in hand, and he just wasn't able to deal with it because of all, like, the deck attacks from a bunch of different angles, and there's just, with her, there's no way they can really deal with that. Next in the Pan package, I guess we'll call it, is Rushing Warrior Pan. She's a bit of a weird one, and I saw like a lot of a list when this deck first came out, when people were still actually playing it, not playing her, which I think is a little bit silly, because there's a number of times where you're going to go into grind games, and there's like so many times where your hand's just going to be kind of clunky and awkward, and you have to dig your way through it. And just the fact that this is a 5k combo that draws you a card, among other things, it's basically getting you, at the end of the day, 10,000 power for 1 energy and replacing itself. So you can think of it kind of like that Goku that combos and draws a card. That's basically what she is in this deck. And it's nice because it gives actual power to this guy. So you need to get him to 60,000 or whatever number you need to hit, and you can get your free burn off. And she's also really nice on defense, which granted you never want to play defense with this deck, but if you have to, you can Shugesh her out, draw a card, and it makes your Shugesh is a lot less neggy, and it just gives you a little bit of defensive presence, and it's just very like flexible offensively as well. Next, probably realistically the star of a deck, Fearless Pan. This young lady is what makes all of your OTKs happen, because like your board is usually going to be flooded with like 4 or 5 things that are just like 10k dorks that aren't really doing anything. But if you swing with like a 5,000 pint-sized Warrior Son Goku just not buffed at all, people usually let that through, and usually it's correct to let it through, so it's not like they're just being bad. It just depends on the situation. But if you swing with this guy, people will let it through, and then you can just drop Shugesh, and then all of a sudden that's a 20,000 double strike attack, and then you've got a blocker on board for follow-up, assuming you can't kill them. She just does a lot, and she's like definitely, like I said, the pans are 100% what make the deck tick, and she is like star of the show. Onto the rest of the battle cards, we have the obligatory for Shugesh. I'm pretty sure anybody can tell you that like most of these mecha decks, this deck especially, do not work without this guy. He just makes things go. Like playing a Fearless Pan for 3 and playing a Fearless Pan for free are 2 very different things, and one of them's a lot better than the other, and I'm pretty sure you can guess which. But yeah, aside from that, he's just like value incarnate. He just makes your pushes happen. And moving on from him, his best friend, Explosive Spirit, Son Goku. We all know what this guy does at this point. He's the reason you can't shotgun against yellow. He's kind of weird in this deck. Like anything not red is kind of weird in this deck, but like you can do some really cute tricks with them on your own turn, just to like when you're getting into your quote-unquote grind games, you can pop their board and then still just have a blocker for follow-up, and then you can swing with them, and since he untaps, and then you have a blocker for their next turn. I'm not sure if 2 is the correct number. I'm not sure if more would be a correct number either, because like your hand can just get clogged up with things that are not red, and when you're trying to make plays happen through your Hyper Evolution, it can just be really bad for you. But yeah, we all know how good this guy is. No need to talk more about him. Next, the Tech 1 of, which might look a little bit weird, Time Patrol Trunks. More of him might have been a good idea, and I can't really say for sure, but like there's a lot of times where your hand will just be like almost there, and you'll have like 1 extra Planet Vegeta, and you just need another body on board or something like that for like combo power or just another attack. You can search him off your 1 Planet Vegeta, banish whatever 3, overwhelm whatever 3 you have in your drop area, look at the top 2, and usually he'll dig you into something you need. So I mean, we all know how good he is, and he serves his purpose pretty well in this deck, especially considering he's tutorable by everyone's next favorite card, Planet Vegeta. We all know how good that guy is. One drop, but let's be honest, it's free because we're playing Mecha Frieza. That searches a 4 cost or less sand, and there are tons of 4 costs or less sands, and most of them are really, really good. I'm pretty sure everything in this deck that isn't one of the EX Evolve, yeah, literally everything in this deck that isn't an EX Evolve is a target for that thing. So it can literally toolbox out whatever you need. It's amazing. No need to talk about it anymore. Next card in the deck, 4 Grand Tour Spaceship. It's usually free because you shouldn't be playing it unless you're awakened. As a 1-drop, it's also pretty good just to get you to your awakening, but most of the time you're going to be digging for this guy off of that so you can actually make your pushes. And yeah, it's just really good. Like, playing this guy for free and basically drawing a card off of it is phenomenal, and it just makes the deck work. Next in line, we have Senzu Bean. Really interesting card, but also like it's a weird card, but it's also like really important because if you have this guy on board, obviously the first thing you're going to do is EX Evolve him, and you're only going to be on 2 energy with this deck. So Senzu Bean basically effectively pushes you to 4 energy, and when this deck has 4 energy on its second turn effectively, it's just really, really hard to stop because I'm not saying it's going to happen that you're going to draw 4 of these, but if you are that guy, if you are that young man and you draw 4 of these and you can Senzu Bean and just make him huge and keep attacking with him, it's phenomenal. It's also good defensively, obviously, so really nothing else to say about it. And next we have Cold Bloodlust. This card it's very hit or miss. Like, there's a lot of times where you just don't want to see it because it's not a red card and it's not like a battle card and it just doesn't actually do anything for you on your turn. But there's also times where like you're going to be playing against apes or something and they're on their 3rd turn, like you went 2nd and they play their march, and it's just like, okay, cool, well I guess I'll use this so I can lower my life down a little bit more and I don't have to worry about 2 20,000 double strikes or 2 20,000 crits, because like you want every single card you can get in this deck, everyone. And if you can avoid, and also you want to control where your life goes. Like, you don't want to be at 3 at pretty much any point. When you're going for your push, you want to be at 4 so you can play as much free stuff as possible. But I'm pretty sure that's self-explanatory. But yeah, Cold Bloodlust is good. And then we have 4 Encouraging Presence Manaka. We all know what he does. Pot of Greed that gets your leader to awaken. And in this deck, the double strike is actually pretty relevant because, again, we're an OTK deck. We're just pushing for damage. So there's a lot of times where you're just like, if you're going 2nd and you're not going for a push just yet, you'll just like play Manaka, swing, get your 2 damage in, chip at him a little bit, and then next turn you try and go for game. But yeah, Manaka awakens you, draws cards. It's really good.
All right, so I've noticed that you don't have a sideboard. Is there a reasoning for that?
The reasoning is that I left the cards home and didn't feel like getting them.
All right, so if there was any changes to this list, what would you change? And keep in mind with the errata coming on May 1st.
Well, see, that's a very tricky one. With the deck in its current state, this guy should probably go to 1. It's arguable whether Cold Bloodlust should be in it at all, but like, it's one of those cards where if you're not playing it and you have the ability to play it, you just feel wrong not having it. But like, otherwise, this list was super solid, and I have no real complaints about it. With the errata in mind, I don't know what you do with this deck. I hope SS3 works with it. I haven't done any testing to know whether it does or not, but I want to be able to play this guy. So if SS3 is good with it, I'm going to try to make SS3 work with that, because like Super Saiyan 4, it's amazing.
Right. Well, Ricardo McBride, we are so proud of you, and thank you for your participation.
All right.
Any final thoughts?
Goodbye, Frieza. You won't be missed. That's
All
pretty
right.
much it.
See you, GNG.